The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 329 and this is my third live interview of the week. It's been a busy week for Johners, it really has. And this is my final interview for the month of October before we start the month of November, of course, which is celebrating 5 years of Wrestling with Johners. But today I've got an awesome guest. None other than hot off of 3 months of training with Dr. Tom Prichard, no less. The Allstar, Ruby Manitoba. Ruby, it's awesome to have you on the show. How you doing this evening?
Yeah, not too bad.
Great to have you on the show. I know you're an tinsy wincy and a little bit nervous because this is your first podcast appearance, I understand.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of talking, but like I said to you just then, I talk fast, and a lot, so it's good.
You're going to be absolutely fine. And if you want to get in touch with the show tonight, you can do. We're, of course, streaming live across Facebook Live, YouTube and Twitch. So get in touch with the show. If you want to get in touch with the show, send your questions through for Ruby Manitoba. You can do. Just ping them through to us using your chosen device, and we do our very best during the course of this interview to answer every single question or to bring them up live on screen. But just a quick reminder of some of my recent guests. And as I mentioned earlier on, this is my final interview of the month of October, the 8th interview in the month of October. And it kick-started with somebody that Ruby knows very well, Jordan Sparks. Similar to Ruby, straight from 3 months of training with JPWA over in Tennessee. Fantastic conversation with Jordan Sparks. Please go and check that one out on my YouTube channel today. Had former WWE, NXT and 205 Live announcer, sports broadcaster, and renowned comic Johnny LaQuasto joined me just a few weeks ago. And of course, Shah Samuels was another guest that I had in the month of October, followed by JJ Gale, a really fun interview with JJ. And I've seen a fair bit of him in 2023, one of the hottest prospects on the UK scene. Go and check that one out, get a full insight into what JJ Gale is all about. Recent interviews have included Mila Schmidt, one of the brightest talents on the European scene. She's the bout collector of European wrestling. Go and check out my interview with Mila Schmidt. And this week, as I said, the week kick-started with Scott Garland, Scotty Too Hottie, coming back onto the show for the second time, almost a year to the day to when he was last on the show, talking to us live about his up-and-coming UK and European tour that's taking place through the month of November and December. Go and check that one out. And also this interview it's got a bit of worldwide press being picked up by all the famous big wrestling news outlets from around the world. So go and check that one out, find out what all the hype is about. And more recently, just a few days ago, I spoke to Ivy. We spoke about bout collectors of European wrestling. Ivy is picking up some gold around the UK. That's a really fun conversation with the definitely not Karen of the UK wrestling scene. And before we speak to Ruby, I mentioned last week, this is my lineup for the month of November. Awesome artwork from Elliot93. Thank you very much, Elliot. And of course, we got Lana Austin, Session Moth Martina, Kira Chimera, Tom Scarborough, renowned referee, of course. Dirty Dango will be joining us at the end of November. Nico Angelo, Leon Cage, and of course, World of Sport legend, British wrestling legend, Johnny Saint will be. I've already recorded a 2-part interview with Johnny Saint. I went to Johnny's home a couple of weeks ago where we had a really brilliant hour-long conversation. Please hit subscribe wherever you're watching this, especially on YouTube, and you'll be able to catch all of those in the month of November. But today, it's all about that young lady there, Ruby Manitoba, the All-Star. And firstly, and I think we alluded to this earlier on, but you're back in the UK now. 3 months over in the States, 3 months over in Tennessee, training with one of the very best coaches in the whole world, Dr. Tom Prichard at JPWA in Tennessee. I've got to ask you, how is kind of life getting back to normal, being back in the UK? I'm guessing that you're missing being over in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, the first thought is just it's cold and wet here and like horrible. But overall, it is nice to be back. It's nice to see sort of Eddie Bryan, and we popped down to the New Wave Girls session. Was it yesterday? It's very recent. But it's nice to see everyone back here. But obviously, I do miss Tennessee. I'm definitely like a summer girl.
Yeah, I can understand why. And of course, a little bit of a graphic promoting where you were going, the dates that you were going to be out there for. There you are with the gang, Toby, Jordan, yourself, sitting on the steps of your accommodation while you're out there, and a picture of the four of you, himself in the centre, Dr. Tom Prichard. But I've got to ask you, it was obviously a life-changing experience being out there. How would you describe in a nutshell your time out there? I'm guessing that it warms your heart and fills you with tons of good memories.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite hard to describe in a nutshell. There were so many different aspects to being out there that were like fantastic. Obviously, the training with Dr. Tom was like insane. The training itself was like quite repetitive. I wouldn't say basic, but you'd repeat lots of drills. It was difficult because we were in, I don't know what degree heat, sweating. It was not easy. But the training itself with Doc was fantastic. And then you get into the part where he just tells some fantastic stories or tell jokes, which mostly weren't very funny jokes, but like you'd laugh because he was laughing.
Something about liking strawberries and fishing. What's that all about?
Okay.
I'm sure it made sense.
So obviously there's quite a few different styles of wrestling out there. You have sort of the British style and you have the American style, and like AEW and WWE. And Doc would always say, I've got to remember it word by word now.
That's right.
Doc would always say, I like strawberries, but when I go fishing, I put worms on my hook, not strawberries, because fishes don't like strawberries.
Okay.
So it's essentially saying you got to do what you got to do to get the crowd what they want. And that's something that he would say. I think he forgot how many times he told us it. It was at least weekly.
Oh, brilliant. And when you first heard the news that you were going out there, that you were going to spend 3 months with Dr. Tom Prichard at JPWA in Tennessee, what were your reactions when you first found out that this was a reality, that this was happening?
I mean, it was quite like a gradual build,
Really?
We'd been like planning it for a while, and then it was trying to get like everything sorted, because obviously going to America is like a big ordeal with all the fancy airport stuff. So I didn't really believe it until we sort of got there and you got off the plane and it's boiling. And you're sort of like, well, I suppose I'm here for a while then. But that, like, very, very, very happy. It was amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. And being out there, tell us about a typical day then. So what would you do? Would you be training most or every day with Dr. Tom? And give us a bit of insight into your typical day, both before, during, and after a session with JPWA.
So on his 12-week course, which is the one we did, you train from 6 till 10 every night, Monday to Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday is like day off, day for shows. So I'm not gonna lie, we would get up pretty late. If you can have a lion, you gotta have a lion. But yeah, we'd get up pretty late. We would have breakfast, go to the gym, eat some more food, and go to training. Obviously we do some fun touristy stuff when we could, but it was very eat and train most of the time.
Absolutely. And listen, I've got a picture here of you sitting under the learning tree of Dr. Tom Prichard. I think you were there, possibly in the green. Not quite sure. Possibly next to Echo there. We can just about make out Echo. But it must have been a bit of a kind of a surreal experience, kind of sitting in front of somebody that you've probably seen for years on the TV or on DVD or through YouTube, and kind of soaking in all the knowledge. But did you adapt to those surroundings, and did you adapt to his style of training fairly well?
Yeah, so So one thing about me is I absolutely adore training. Like I've done it my whole life. I absolutely love training. Um, but the first week we were there, it was very much a settling in week. Like everyone was very quiet. Not many personalities were coming out. Dr. Tom would be like asking all the questions and we'd like timidly reply. But then you get to the 12-week mark and he's annoyed with all of us at that point. But yeah, and his coaching style is actually pretty similar to Eddie Bryan's. I'd say it's very sort of drill you on what you need to know, and then from there we can add in whatever else you need. It was really like structured, which is what I like.
Yeah. Let me ask you, were there any aspects or what aspects of the training did you enjoy the most? And were there any aspects of the training that you didn't enjoy as much?
What jumps to mind is Wednesday promo class.
Go on.
So yeah, so every Wednesday was a 2 hour session instead of a 4 hour session, and we would do promo class. And I cannot tell you if I loved it or I hated it, because it's so out of my comfort zone. But it was definitely where I think I learned the most and like progressed the most over those 12 weeks. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit crazy. I loved sweating in the ring. We did a body slam drill. Well, it wasn't just a body slam drill, but we did it like what he calls a man in the middle. So you have one person in the middle, one each corner of the ring, and you like feed out 5 times and do like a sequence with each person. But the end was a body slam. You'd have to give a body slam to every person in the corner. So you'd end up giving and taking 36 body slams
Oh,
in one
yeah.
night, as well as training, as well as the 555, which is a whole ordeal in itself. And then you go back the next day. Although he did get us cupcakes the next day, so I was happy about that.
Very much deserved by the sounds of it. So was that your least enjoyable or your most enjoyable? I can't remember which way round it was.
I mean, towards the end, it was probably the least enjoyable session, the body
Gotcha.
slam
Yeah,
drill.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But yeah, not something you want to kind of 6 weeks of that. Wow,
Yeah.
unbelievable. But tell us a bit about Dr. Tom, because not many of us will ever have an opportunity to kind of spend much time in his presence, let alone train with him for 3 months. What's the man behind the persona like? Did you get much time to spend with Dr. Tom, kind of on a one-to-one basis, or maybe after sessions? What's the guy like?
Um, so yeah, he had a lot of time to talk to us. He really wanted us to sort of get as much as we could out of the experience. He genuinely is a very lovely man. He's quite quiet, I'd say, in comparison to like some of the characters you can meet in the wrestling world. But he's very funny. I think it was towards the end when he was telling us about his Bonnie's suicide, which nobody finds funny apart from Dr. Tom, who really likes sort of drawings and animations of different ways that bunnies commit suicide, and it's not funny at all. But he laughs so much about it. He's a very sweet man.
Yeah, sounds like like I say, a good laugh to be around. But it wasn't just the training, was it? Because you also had the opportunity to pick up some bookings while you're out there. How did these bookings arise in the first place? Because I don't know if you had any bookings planned or scheduled before you left the UK to go over to Tennessee. So I'm guessing that a lot of them were booked while you were out there. Tell us a little bit about how some of them were kind of booked and arranged while you were out there for 3 months.
Yeah, so when we were out there, we stayed with a lovely man called Jamal. He had like a 2-part house, so he stayed with his family in like the bottom part, and the 4 of us stayed in the top part. And Jamal sort of works with Dr. Tom, and does like the video stuff and technology stuff. And yeah, he sort of arranged our first like in a KFW, and then did he arrange the JCP one? I think he might have. And then from there, we sort of networked. We met a lovely, lovely, lovely couple called Axton and Haley. I could talk for like days about them. But yeah, they helped us out a load, and we managed to get to a fair few promotions.
And tell us about some of the bookings, because having spoken to Jordan Jordan Sparks on a very similar subject, I know that he and Toby picked up a lot of bookings as the Blockbusters. And what about yourself? Did you team with Echo at any of these bookings, or was it more singles performances? Tell us about some of the matches you had.
Yeah, so I don't think I did team with Echo. I definitely wrestled Echo a few times. So the first booking I had was absolutely, the second booking I had was absolutely insane. It was against Kylie Alexa, so she's NWA Women's Tag Champ. And that was at sort of her home promotion, KFW. And I don't know if people will be familiar with sort of like camp shows. So it was very like camp show style.
Right.
A lot of really, really involved fans. And it was such a fantastic experience. You know, she's a very, very, very talented athlete. And it was just insane that like I got to wrestle her so quickly out there. And definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, and I know that I introduced you, of course, as the All-Star Ruby Manitoba. Over here in the UK, you do portray a cheerleader, and I know that you've done a lot of competitive cheerleading over here in the UK, which we will get to. But obviously, when you burst through the curtains at these kind of shows in Tennessee and surrounding areas as a cheerleader, which is more kind of typical of more sports you'd find in North America, and having cheerleaders at American football games, for example. What sort of reaction or reception did you get from the fans when you came out? Did they think that you were from America? Did they realize that you were from Britain?
I mean, yeah, I think it is quite I don't want to say character, but it's quite an identifiable sort of figure, cheerleader, especially in America. So yeah, my ring gear is all made from like cheer companies, so it's very like legitimate. So I definitely came across as like, yeah, that's the one. That's a picture.
There we go.
Yeah, so it was definitely really identifiable and like really relatable, I think, for the fans there. So obviously you get a big cheer. I don't think they did notice that I was from the UK until I started speaking, and then they go, "Your accent's funny."
And obviously, I'm assuming that you went out as babyface for most, if not all, of your matches. And did you get over with the fans? Obviously, to the majority of them, that would have been the first time of them actually seeing you or being aware of you or knowing the name, knowing the person. And by the end of the match, kind of, how was the reaction of the fans? Had you gotten over with those audiences?
Yeah, so it did depend where I wrestled. There are a few times where I was not so nice.
Really? Okay. I don't think I've seen the heel side of Ruby Manitoba. That's yet to come.
Yet to come. But no, I think if you come out with a smile and like a lot of energy, I think that's what people want to see. That's what they're there for. They want an experience, they want a fun show, they want just a fun night. So if you come out with a smile and a big kick and some cartwheels, everyone's always happy.
Yeah, and likewise, when I spoke to Jordan, he said that he performed with Toby in front of 900, 1,000 people. Were you on them same shows? And if so, what was it like to wrestle in front of them large crowds?
Yeah, so that was at AML that they wrestled an insane match in front of an insane amount of people. Unfortunately, I wasn't booked on those shows. I was more of the local shows.
Yeah.
Still, the crowd sizes were impressive. But I think probably a bit, I don't know, my favourite shows there were the fair shows. So they do like county fairs, and you'd be like, you know, they'd set up the ring, you could go look around the fairs, see the cows, and then wrestle a show. And it wasn't necessarily the fans there were there to watch wrestling, but, you know, they'd stop and pass and, you know, sit down, cheer along. And I really enjoyed those because then you felt like you'd achieved something, you know, you got an audience in, and yeah, I like those.
Absolutely. And I think probably one of, if not the biggest highlight of your time out there was in and around the 75th anniversary of the NWA, of course. And there you are, ringside. Now, I understand that you were there to witness the 2-day pay-per-view, and you were also there as ring crew or to help out during the tapings as well. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and when you first found out that you were going to be there during that weekend and the tapings as well. That must have been a huge thrill for you.
Yeah, so the four of us did end up sort of begging Dr. Tom. We were like, can we please come along? Because he's an agent over at NWA. He was like, yeah, of course, come along. So we all, yeah, with Dr. Tom, we all sort of came along. We didn't realise we had to wear all black, so we came along in our funky outfits the first day. And they were like, yeah, you should probably be wearing all black. But everybody there was so kind and was willing to help out and willing to like teach you anything you wanted to know. It was a really lovely experience. Really loved it.
Absolutely. And we spoke before we went live, Ruby, and spoke about Jordan and Toby, the Blockbusters, going out in a dark match during the tapings after the pay. Obviously, there was a couple of days of tapings after the NWA 75 pay-per-view. And you told me that you also played a part in that match. So enlighten us, tell us about that, because not only is it massive for Toby and Jordan to go out there in a dark match in an NWA ring, but so did you.
Yeah, so I'll just first start, very proud of the Blockbusters. You know, they did incredible. Absolutely incredible. Very proud of both of them. But yeah, I was asked to manage them, which I've never done before. I was a bit nervous about, but they were obviously happy Blockbusters. So all I had to do was just sort of go out happy, be a stereotypical cheerleader. So I managed, I think, to pull it off. It was definitely very nerve-wracking, but it was an amazing experience. Yeah.
And you've never portrayed a manager before, I understand.
No, never. Only ever wrestled.
So many firsts. And then, of course, you were out there for 3 months. But like I say, midway through your final month, of course, you had the graduation, didn't you? And there was yourself and all of the other graduates from that 12-week period. There you are at the front there in your gear. So I'm guessing that you probably wrestled that same evening. But tell us a bit about that, because it's obviously a huge milestone, a huge achievement, and a moment that I'm sure you're exceptionally proud of, to know that you've gone through the JPWA training academy for those 3 months. To tell us a bit about that experience and, of course, graduating.
Yeah, so I don't really know how I feel about it. First of all, we had a kerfuffle with the outfits because the graduation ceremony was just before the show. So yeah, so it's the graduation and then right into the show. And I had this really lovely outfit planned. I was like, I'm going to wear this dress. I'm going to look stunning. It's going to be great. And then the promoter was like, no, you're on quite soon. You need to wear your ring gear. So I was like, well, that's all my plans ruined. But yeah, it was a really, I don't know. I don't want to say I was proud because that sounds a bit vain, but it was good to get through it. Good to know that we got something out of going there besides all of the knowledge and all of the experience. You know, we've got that certificate now. We have proof that we met Doc and trained with Doc, and yeah, he's not a very, it sounds a bit weird, he's not a very public person, so if you make him speak in front of a load of people, he's just sort of like, no. So he just sort of shook your hand and was like, well done. But yeah, he was funny.
Yeah. And do you feel, I'm guessing this is, I know the answer to this, but a more accomplished wrestler and performer overall, you know, and looking forward to showing what the new version of Ruby Manitoba has to offer to the UK fans?
Yeah, absolutely. For the fact that it was 12 weeks, 5 days a week in the ring, you can't not get better after that. you just learn to get so comfortable wrestling and being in a ring and being around other wrestlers that you just, it's physically impossible not to get better. And the way Dr. Tom teaches is so that you get used to doing a lot of hard work, and that's your natural state then from then on. So you can push me as far as you want in a match. You got a new and improved Ruby Manitoba.
Absolutely. And as if, you weren't fantastic beforehand, I can't wait to see what the new and improved Ruby Manitoba looks like when we meet tomorrow. And we'll talk about that very, very soon. But one of the last times that we saw each other, or one of the few times that we've seen each other this year, was at the Spinebuster TV tapings in May in Nottingham from the House of Pain gym, Stix's gym, of course. And you were involved in a number of matches. Let me just bring up my notes here. I think part of the Iron Scramble match where you just got pipped at the post by Brad Matthews. I think it was like 3 falls to 2, and there was about 6 of you in that match. But that looks like a lot of fun, that match in particular.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very, very busy ring with a lot of people. But yeah, it was the tapings themselves were absolutely an amazing experience. I did love it. But I think, yeah, I wrestled Tyler Owens, did the scramble, and then Myla Grace as well. So it was a busy, busy time.
Absolutely. And I've got some stills here of your match with Tyler Owens. A really fun match. But this is the match I really wanted to talk to you about when it comes up. Yourself versus Myla Grace. And you two had an absolute banger. It was so much fun. And you came out with a win. And probably one of your, am I right? You did win, didn't you? I did see that, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
You did. It was a long night of tapings. Easy to forget, but you had your arm raised. I'm pretty sure that's correct. But I mean,
Yeah,
that has to be one of your kind of biggest achievements in 2023 is getting a win over Myla Grace, who former NXT UK, renowned all over Europe, one of the best female performers, and getting to perform inside a ring with her, albeit in front of no fans. Still a massive occasion for you.
Yeah, it was, like I said, the whole day was absolutely fantastic. I do think that the no crowd thing always, I don't know, it feels very, very different. But obviously it was still a super competitive match. I'm shocked that if I did get the win, I got the win. But yeah, it's lovely, lovely experience. Oh no, the light's gone dark. Oh. I think I've got to stand up and turn it back on.
Do you need to clap or something?
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, it's a motion sensor light. We've been scuppered by motion sensor. But what I want to ask about next is promos. And you mentioned that you learned a lot doing promos with Dr. Tom over in Tennessee. And we managed to do a good handful of promos and backstage interviews, didn't we, at the Spinebuster tapings? And I think, I kind of messed up your name once or twice maybe. But admittedly, it was a long day of tapings. I did well over 90 interviews that day. But promos, is that something you feel that you're getting stronger at, especially after all the practice you did with me and, of course, with Tom Prichard? And is it something that you're still working at?
Yeah, it's something that I think a lot. I mean, I hope no one minds me saying. I think a lot of UK wrestlers do need to, like, I don't know, focus on promos more, because when you go to America, everyone's so bold and so out there and so like excitable all the time, and then you come back to the UK and everyone's like, right, mate.
Yeah,
so
bit more reserved.
It was really a goal to get better at promos and to get more comfortable just talking and saying what I need to say. And yeah, hopefully people will think I'm better. Who knows?
Yeah, a few people that have reached out to us during the course of this interview, and we've got Riot Girls of Wrestling watching us. Eve, thank you so much. Let that be a lesson to anyone watching, helping, crewing or teaching at a wrestling show. If no uniform is provided, you should always wear all black. Thank you, Eve. That's a lesson I'm sure Ruby has learned as well since the NWA tapings. But thank you very much. And what I want to speak to you about next, and we alluded to it earlier on, is tomorrow. And I'll tell you, in less than 24 hours, we'll be in the same building again, the Watson Hall in Tewkesbury, and it's for Southwest Wrestling, and it's a two-parter for them. And the first show that they're going to be running tomorrow in Tewkesbury is going to be the Warriors division, and you're very much part of that show. Yourself versus Lucia Lee and Aluna, like I say, three of the finest young female performers on the UK indie scene are in the same match there. And like I say, all three of you have been on a fantastic rise on the UK indies and the US indies in your case. But you must be looking forward to that one.
I absolutely am. I think a lot of times I'm not looking forward to triple threats, but this one we all have completely like different styles of wrestling that I think when we get in the ring, it's gonna be either an explosion or some chaos. But I think it will go so well. Yeah, I'm very excited. Obviously, Aluna is absolutely lovely and I think I saw her yesterday. Yeah, I did. It can't have been yesterday. Wednesday. I think I saw her Wednesday. And yeah, she just gets better every time I see her. And not to say that she wasn't amazing to start with, but you know, every single time I see her,
absolutely,
yeah, I'm in shock on how amazing she is. And obviously, I've bumped into Lucia Lee a few times at some shows, and she's a lovely, lovely lady. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Have you worked at either of them before?
I think yes. So I've been in a triple threat with Lucia Lee. As sort of a mini local promotion, and that was lots of fun. I did spend most of my time on the outside, but it was lots of fun. And then I think I've worked in a triple threat with Aluna too. So never in a singles, unless I'm wrong, but never in a singles.
Always in a triple threat, and the same again tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I'll be very used to it.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going to talk a little bit about Southwest Wrestling. Of course, that show tomorrow is presented by Southwest Wrestling, and they got a part 2 as part of their From Dusk Till Dawn double header. But am I right in thinking you made your debut for Southwest Wrestling at last year's Lakefest? If so, I've not been to a Lakefest. They ran it again this year. Looked like a ton of fun.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it this year. But I say unfortunately, we were in America, so it was.
You're in America. You're doing bigger and better things, of course.
But no, Lakefest is an insane experience because you're wrestling in a tent that is boiling hot, in the middle of a festival. So there's so much going on, but it was a lot of fun, and it was lovely to meet Pete. He's a very funny man. But yeah, who did I wrestle there? I definitely had a match with LA. Yeah, but a big learning curve.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to mention LA Taylor a few times during the course of this interview for sure. And another person we're going to mention a few times during the course of this interview is Echo, and somebody that you kind of started in the business with, came up through the ranks with, and now Southwest Wrestling had another Warriors show, a women's only show. I think it was maybe February this year from the Trinity Centre in Bristol. And the two of you, yourself and Echo, wrestled each other on that show. Being as the two of you know each other very, very well, that must have been a fun match between the two of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. I think me and Echo have known each other so long that sort of when we get in the ring, it's no holding back. You know, whatever you've got, we'll give it a go. And it was a really fun match and a really competitive match. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, one of the better ones we've had. We've wrestled. I think I've wrestled Echo more times than I could count. Yeah, that was one of my favorites with her.
Absolutely, for sure. And one of the last times I saw you, in fact, the same month as the Spinebuster tapings, as a matter of fact, was Southwest Wrestling's anniversary show. They call it WrestleVersary. It's WrestleVersary 3 from the Exmouth Pavilion in Exmouth. Believe it or not, there you are. One of the headlining stars on the poster. That was the advertised match. I think it was a #1 contenders Warriors Scramble match, but it was actually just a four-way in the end because Lucy Lee couldn't make that match. But that was a lot of fun. And in the Exmouth Pavilion, a really, really nice, grand venue on the beachfront there. And yourself, Dominator, and Echo and LA went to war in that match. And I got to see all that match when I wasn't doing backstage interviews. I enjoyed the hell out of it. What are your memories? What are your recollections of that four-way?
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. It was a very fun match. I always enjoy seeing Dominator. I absolutely adore her. But yeah, it was obviously me, Echo, and LA trained together quite a lot. So it was nice. Yeah, it was putting it all out there.
Absolutely. And my recollections of the match was it was very physical.
Yeah.
The match being a scramble match went all around the ring, and of course you got Dominator in there, who he's like I say, she's a dominating female performer, of course, and LA Taylor, Echo, yourself, and I spoke to LA after the match, and we spoke about yourself in particular, and we were so impressed with the fire, the passion, the energy that you provided in that ring. And she said that she's seen you come on leaps and bounds. But that match, I've got to say, hand on heart, for me, you were the star of that match, just purely because of the fire and the energy and the passion you put into it.
Yeah, I do get a lot of energy. It's probably all the monsters, but yeah, I do enjoy wrestling in a way that is, I don't know, I enjoy competing a lot, and it means a lot to me, and it's a good way to sort of build up all that energy and let it out in a match. And I always really love it and really enjoy it.
And there's always a lot of fire, a lot of passion, a lot of energy, but a lot of noise as well. And you kind of do really every single move, you kind of sell it with so much passion and so much energy. And without sounding kind of negative, the noise as well, you really do put everything into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very aware that my voice is quite high and squeaky, so I think when I first started wrestling, I was very reserved about making noises because I was like, oh, it's a bit embarrassing, but no, just yell,
Absolutely, and it really works, and I think it kind of suits everything you do, and kind of it gives everybody that attention towards you in the ring for sure. But I can't wait to see you in your triple threat match tomorrow. But that match, that four-way in Exmouth, was one of my favorite matches from the night for sure, and you were definitely a highlight of that match. Tell us a little bit about your wrestling fandom then, Ruby, and when did wrestling first come into your consciousness, and when did you first become a fan?
So, it's quite a difficult question. So I didn't know absolutely anything about wrestling until about, I'd say, a year after I started wrestling. Yeah, I know, it's quite interesting. So me and Echo, we knew each other in school. And I did cheerleading, and I was getting, I wouldn't say bored, but I wanted like a new challenge in life. So I heard Echo was doing wrestling, and I thought she was doing like jiu-jitsu or something. So I was like, yeah, I'll come along. That sounds lots of fun. And then I was dragged into the world of wrestling, not really knowing what it was or what to do. And yeah, it definitely took me a while to get used to it all, but I'm absolutely in love now. So in terms of like who I'm a fan of and what I like watching is, I don't know, to be confirmed, I suppose. I'm just watching sort of as much as I can at the moment to just get a bit of history on wrestling, because I think that's really important to know. But I've also got work and school and lots to do.
You're a busy person with uni, work, training, performing, and then finding the time to speak to me. I don't know how you fit it all in. I really don't know how you fit it all in.
Lots of not sleeping in Monster Energies, I think.
This episode needs to be sponsored by Monster Energy drinks for sure. and I don't think I've ever really interviewed anybody that kind of didn't really know anything about wrestling, started training, started, learning the ropes as a trainee without really knowing much about the sport, and it's kind of a bit of a reverse process, but it certainly worked in your case.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while to work. I will say that. It's because anything athletic, I think not to sound vain, I think I'm quite capable at, If you ask me to do a roll, I'll do a roll. If you ask me to hit someone, I'll hit someone. But the fact that you have to do that, with a crowd around you in a match, I don't know, it really confused me. So yeah, it was definitely a big adjustment. Yeah, but I'm getting there.
Well, you certainly are more than getting there. But tell me a bit about the cheerleading then, because I'm guessing the cheerleading came before your commencement of professional wrestling.
Yeah, so I started cheerleading when I was 11. I'm just going to clarify, it's Allstar cheerleading. So there's sideline cheerleading. I tell everyone this, it's a big up brand. There's sideline cheerleading, which is what you usually see with the pom-poms in football. And then Allstar is, like, think of it like a gymnastics floor routine, but with stunts, 20 to 30 girls on the mat, stunts, jumps, dance, tumbles, which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, and it was like really a big passion of mine. And I can't describe why. I think the routine of training is always going to stick with me, and it's so valuable to have something that you're working towards. And I think that's what I will always need, and I needed at the time, was to have a goal, to have that next competition, and then working in a team as well. You learn those sort of like social skills of, I don't like this person, but I've got to get on with them because I'm going to be chucking them in the air, and I don't want them to die. So
much like wrestling.
Yeah, it's quite similar. And then you get to the competition, you leave everything that you have on the mat, and you come off and you are proud of absolutely everyone in your team. Like, yeah, it's an experience that I can't describe. I think more people should watch All-Star cheer routines. That's a big takeaway from today. But yeah, I started that. I started in Wales because that's where I grew up, and then I moved to Plymouth, which I joined a team in Plymouth called Power Athletics, and I cannot say enough nice things about them. They're really, really lovely. Yeah.
And you've had some success, haven't you? I mean, we spoke a bit off air, but you have had some success. You've won trophies, you've won meets or competitions. Tell us a bit about your success as an all-star cheerleader.
Yeah, so I'm told I should tell more people this, but I am a 5-time national cheerleading champion. So so yeah, as the competitions go, you do sort of regional competitions, and then you have, I don't know what you call it, bigger competitions, and you have your nationals. I never went to Worlds, which is probably a good thing because it's expensive. But yeah, 5-time national, so that's a lot of fun. It's not my thing to brag about. It was the team's work and the coach's work, and I was just a small part in that.
Well, there you go. It's out there now. It's out there now on Wrestling with Johners. So it's out in the big wide universe. But I mean, the parallels between the gymnastics element of being an all-star cheerleader and then learning to train as a professional wrestler, there's a lot of parallels there, isn't there, in terms of how you move the body, the roles, and the way you kind of throw your body around and in a controlled movement, in a controlled atmosphere, you could say. Did that assist you and give you any advantages when learning as a pro wrestler?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. I think body weight control, I think, is the main one. Is the main similarity. You got to learn how to roll. You got to know how to control yourself and know what you're doing and where you're going. And I think that's the same in any sport, but cheerleading really does drill that into you. So when I started wrestling, that came really, really natural to me. I think the biggest difference is in cheer. When you get hit in the face, you get hit and you smile, because you're still like doing a performance. You're performing to the judges and to the crowd, but you want to seem happy. Whereas in wrestling, you don't need to do that, which took me a while to sort of figure out that when someone hits me, I don't have to smile. So yeah, that's, I think, the biggest difference.
Absolutely. And how have you been able to incorporate your all-star cheerleading into being a professional wrestler? I've seen a ton of your matches, a lot of your highlights, and there's a lot of Ruby Manitoba matches to be had and to be viewed on YouTube, of course. So go and check out all of the matches after watching this, of course. But there is a lot of gymnastics elements to your in-ring work repertoire, and like I say, you do the splits, you do the high kicks, you do a brilliant handspring back elbow, I believe it is, and various other very athletic elements to your game. So how have you kind of incorporated some of your gymnastics into your pro wrestling, especially in your kind of in-ring repertoire?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about, I think, moving like effectively in the ring. You know, if you run to the other side, you run to the other side. If you back handspring and then back elbow to the other side, you've got like so much more power to you, and you get there quicker. You know, it's a lot of fun. You know, I think tumbling really did help me build what I'm doing in the ring. Yeah, and then also stunting as well, because I was not a flyer. I didn't go up in the air. I was base. So I don't lift many people in wrestling, but I can. You know, I won't have any problems lifting anyone up, slamming them down. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot of just fundamentals of sport, I think, that is the similarity.
And I've got some pictures now. I think these are from possibly your early days in training. Let me bring these up. And the blonde hair. I don't know whether that was short-lived, but there you are. And there you are, maybe a year or so in. But the Rubik's Cube, and now that was kind of part of your presentation to start off with. What was the Rubik's Cube all about?
Good question. It's a very good question. The coach at the time figured out I could solve a Rubik's Cube and went, that's a great gimmick. You should sell loads of them. That'll be great for you. But I don't think Rubik's Cubes really translate well into wrestling. So that got dropped along with the blonde hair, unfortunately.
I can see it now. Ruby Manitoba, Rubik's Cube, coming to a merch stand near you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, maybe then, but not now. And a group of kind of female performers that you came up with. We've mentioned Echo. I think there was Aurora as well. LA Taylor. I think one or two others. Got some pictures here of the group of you in match graphics. And there you are with that Rubik's Cube again. And like I say, yourself and Echo, you've had your battles over the years, and of course you've had your battles with LA Taylor as well. But a good group of girls that you've kind of formed this bondship with. You came up through school with Echo, of course, but and you're still kind of intertwining with one another's career even through to today.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we live very, very south. So when we get to shows, it's usually like a group deal. So the amount of times that I have wrestled Echo, I could not tell you, but you learn from every single experience you have in the ring, and yeah, I've really enjoyed every single one. Unfortunately, I don't think Aurora does it anymore. But
no. Don't see her about on the scene, so no, that must be the case. But she was very, very talented when she was working the shows a year or so ago.
Yeah, absolutely lovely lady as well. Absolutely, she made my first gym plan, which was a lot. I love the the gym now, but I did not like her when she made my first gym plan. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. And just going to bring up Echo there, because I think she's probably one of the UK talents that you're most closest with. You've probably had the most matches with her, and you've teamed with her an awful lot as well. We spoke a lot about Echo, formerly Echo Reed, of course. I've had her on the show more than 3 years ago, very, very early days of Wrestling with Johners. But much like yourself, she went through this 3 months with Tom Prichard over in Tennessee, and another awesome talent before she went over there, probably even more awesome now. But the amount of progression that she's had over the last few years has been phenomenal, much like yourself.
Yeah, she's one of those people who did not come from a sporting background that much. But her passion for wrestling has really sort of helped her through. I say helped, she didn't need any help, but really helped her through and made her the person and the wrestler that she is today. And yeah, I'm very proud of her.
Absolutely. Going to have to get Echo back on the show for sure to have a little bit of a
Yeah.
follow-up to see. Well, I know what she's been up to the last 3 years. She's been going onwards and upwards. But a couple of matches I want to talk about, and one company in particular that really put a bit of a spotlight on you towards the back end of last year, and that's Wrestling Society, based near me in the southwest, Bristol, Portishead. And you had a couple of matches for them at the back end of last year. I think early October was the first one. And it was, when my graphic comes up, now it was actually yourself versus Lana Austin. Now, that a hell of a match, an awesome kind of opportunity for you, a brilliant kind of learning opportunity for you as well, being there with one of the very best performers in the UK, male or female. Lana Austin has been there, done it, and she's one of the top performers in the UK for sure. For yourself to be given that opportunity to wrestle Lana, I'm guessing it was originally meant to be a triple threat with yourself, Lana, and Nadia, but to have a one-on-one with, let's be honest, a legend of the UK scene, Lana Austin, that must have been maybe a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience for you, but a fun experience nonetheless. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so like you said, it was supposed to be a triple threat, so I was very unprepared for a singles match with Lana Austin. I was hoping it'd be a pretty relaxed night. But it was, like you said, it was absolutely insane. It is up there with one of my favorite matches that I've had. Everything just felt right and felt like it should. And I learned so much from that match, and it sticks with me a lot. Yeah.
What were some of the main takeaways from that match, and especially wrestling? A vet like Lana, been on the scene for 10 or 15 years now. What are some of the takeaways from yourself from wrestling somebody such as Lana Austin in that type of match?
I mean, so we spoke earlier about sort of increased fire and energy. That was advice from Lana. Yeah, we were wrestling. She was like, "Don't be afraid, just go for it." So yeah, she's really the reason why I was like, okay, I'll give it all I've got. I'm not holding back now. So she really helped me, and she won't even remember the conversation about it. But yeah, she really, really helped me sort of develop just a little bit more fire.
She's partly responsible for the Ruby Manitoba we see in 2023, and another fun match you had the following month for Wrestling Society, and you was in the ring with Lana Austin again, but this time, and I don't, my graphic is going to work. There we go. Epic women's trios match, and it was Nadia who did get in the ring this time with LA Taylor and Lana Austin versus yourself, Echo, and Lucy Sky. And here's just some stills from that show, from that match. And there you are, encouraging Echo to make the tag. And a tremendous match was had by all 6 of you. And the baby faces came out on top. There we go. Another really fun match, another really fun experience. Different circumstances, different style of match. What do you remember about that one?
Yeah, so I definitely prefer singles matches. So when I booked in a tag, I'm sort of like, okay, or a triple threat, we'll see how it goes. But that's one of the ones where I was like, yes, it's a good match. So for everybody like, it was lovely meeting Lucy. She told us this horrible story about breaking her arm, and then showed us a video of her breaking her arm. And I was like, oh, let me just read that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that one. It's Wrestling Society is a really, really nice place to wrestle. The fans are so into it, and the matches are always going to be sort of what you want them to be.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about your training and kind of more recent training exploits. First of all, your wrestling style, it is quite unique because there's a lot of gymnastics involved, and obviously you take elements of that from your Allstar cheerleading days. But are there any other influences or inspirations that have kind of guided your wrestling style in particular, and any heroes that you've taken bits from, or any influences within the business that have guided you a particular way? But talk about your influences now in the ring, and maybe some of your inspirations as well.
Yeah, so like you said, it's mostly sort of based on what I know from cheer. But one lady that I absolutely adore is Alundra Blaze, or Medusa. I've watched loads of her matches, and that again is where you can see the fire, and you can see sort of how confident and how capable she is in the ring. And it's, you know, something that I would love to be able to have one day. There's also a lady named Malia Hasaka, I think I pronounced that right, who I have discovered recently, and she's absolutely insane, and everyone should check her out, and she's amazing, and I want to see her more. But yeah, she was wrestling in the same time period as Alundra Blaze and Medusa. So.
Say that name one more time.
Malia Hasaka.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look her up. I'll have to check out some of her action for sure.
Yeah,
please continue.
She does wrestle Alundra Blaze. You can find it on YouTube. It's very good.
Gonna have to check that one out for sure. Now we saw. Now look, I'll bring that picture up again. We saw the early days of Ruby Manitoba, and we know what you look like now. There you are, the more kind of souped up, the more recent version of Ruby Manitoba. Where do you see your character going? Is there a more evolving? Is there an evolution of Ruby Manitoba around the corner? How would you like your character to evolve, especially after having that fantastic experience over in the States and everything you learned coming back, you know, a souped up, improved Ruby Manitoba? Where do you think the character goes from here?
Yeah, I mean, there was such a difference between those two photos. Yeah, I think my main focus at the moment is to just obviously continue training with Eddie Bryan and down at New Wave, and just to get stronger. You know, I'm the All-Star Ruby Manitoba, but I want to encompass that, and you know, I want to be the athlete that people should see me as. So get to the gym, get nice and strong. Yeah, that's where it's going at the moment, but I'm really enjoying the journey so far.
100%. And you spoke about Eddie Ryan. Of course, you are a regular trainee, a regular student at the brand new Lions Den Pro in Plymouth. And I mean, what's the guy like as a coach? I mean, I got to know Eddie reasonably well, working with him at shows at Southwest Wrestling and various others. A hell of a performer in the ring, arguably one of the very best in the UK. As a coach, I don't know him so much or so well as a coach, but you do. Have you been down there much since returning back to the UK? And how's it been down at Lions Den Pro?
Not as much as I want to be. We've been busy. But yeah, so it's Josh and Art and Eddie Ryan coaching down at the Lions Den, and it's some of the best training I think that you can get in the UK right now. I don't know how to phrase this. You won't go to a wrestling session there and be like, oh my god, that was so exciting, I learned so many cool things, but you will come away from every single session thinking, I know what I need to do next. I know that I've made a few little steps in my journey to becoming what I want to be or who I need to be. And what I will say about Eddie is he pays so much attention to the details that you cannot escape. You cannot escape anything. Nothing slips him. Yeah. And then Josh as well, of course, is absolutely lovely coach. Too kind, far too kind. But yeah, fantastic to learn from both of them.
There we go. We had some questions that came through before we went live. Let's bring a couple of them up now. And the first one is from Darren Ewan. Would you like to compete over in Japan if you had the chance? So obviously, you've competed not just in the UK, over in the US. So you are international, Ruby Manitoba. But Japan, I'm guessing, is on your bucket list. I'm hoping so. How would you like to answer Darren's question?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the chance to wrestle, like I said, I when I started my wrestling journey, I didn't know much about wrestling. So the chance to learn and to have as many matches in as many places as possible is my absolute dream. So yes, I would love to.
And another question, you mentioned very briefly New Wave down in South Wales, and I think that they were one of your regular training academies, training schools for a while before Lions Den came about, and you still go there, I believe. But a question from Richie, friend of the show, when will you be coming back to New Wave in South Wales? And second part of the question, what are your goals for 2024? So the first part, kind of coming back to New Wave, I know that you trained there. I think you performed on a few of their shows as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I've been on one of their shows so far, which was a fantastic experience. It's lovely to train there, and their shows are even nicer than their training, which you don't think is possible. I don't know when I'll be back, but hopefully soon. You know, you can always ask. And what are my goals for 2024?
Yeah, big question. Probably the most difficult question that's been asked during the last hour of this interview. So thank you, Richie, for putting our guests on the spot there. But what goals do you have? We spoke a bit about the evolution of the character, the evolution of Ruby Manitoba. But do you have any goals or aspirations going forward?
I mean, yeah, I do. I really want to wrestle. And this is purely very, very selfish. I really want to wrestle Nina Samuels, Sky Spitzen, or Danny Luna. So that's it. Doesn't even have to be in 2024. I will wait until I'm 60 to wrestle any three of those women. But yeah, those are my goals eventually. And hopefully to just pop my face in a few new promotions. It would be lovely to sort of branch out a little bit.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen for sure. Before we ask you for your socials, just a quick reminder for those that are still watching us at home or listening on the audio playback. Next week commences my 5-year anniversary of Wrestling with Johners. I can't believe that we've been going every single week, multiple interviews, multiple shows for the last 5 years. And there is a bit of a snapshot, fantastic artwork there from Elliot93 of my guests, my lineup, and it starts next week. Wednesday, the 1st of November, I've got renowned UK referee, former NXT UK referee, former World of Sport referee, not the original one back in the 70s and 80s, but the reboot from a few years ago. Tom Scarborough will be coming onto the show. I can't wait to speak to Tom on the 1st of November. And then the following week, I've got Session Moth Martina. And she's going to be a wonderful guest, one of the biggest characters on the independent scene. We'll be talking about her rise in the business to being one of the very best independent workers worldwide. And another top name we've got towards the end of the month. I think this is the 27th of November, if I'm not mistaken, Lana Austin. But so many more, including my Legends Masterclass interview with Johnny Saint, Dirty Dango, Leon Cage, Nico Angelo, and Kira Chimera. But back to my wonderful guest there, Ruby Manitoba. And Ruby, I will have scrolling along the bottom of the screen your socials. But if any of my followers, viewers, listeners want to get in touch, want to say hi, want to learn more about Ruby Manitoba, where can they do so?
I would probably go to my Instagram, first. That's where I post most of my content. I should probably be a bit better at posting equally. But my Instagram is @Ruby_Manitoba. Manitoba is spelled Manitoba. And then I'm Ruby Wrestler on Facebook. I should probably change that to Manitoba too, but take some time.
That's all right, but I had a ton of fun doing my research on your Instagram and on your Facebook and through YouTube, and tons of Ruby Manitoba matches on YouTube, of course. But any merch in the pipeline? I mean, like I say, you're a very likable baby face. Likable baby faces tend to have a T-shirt or two. What about yourself?
Yeah, so it's been in progress. I've been thinking about it. I might get some T-shirts soon. So I do sometimes bring 8x10s to shows. So if you're lucky, random potluck, you might get one. But yeah, T-shirts maybe soon. Hopefully soon.
In the works. In the works, for sure. There we go. But it's been awesome having you on as a guest for episode 329 of Wrestling with Johners. If you've got any parting words, any final messages from Ruby Manitoba to sign us off this episode of Wrestling with Johners to your fans, friends, followers at home, or maybe your rivals at Southwest Wrestling tomorrow, maybe not. But any final words to sign us off from Ruby Manitoba?
Just thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Johners, for having me.
My pleasure.
It's not been as terrible as I thought it would. I've been less awkward.
You've been a wonderful guest. Looking forward to seeing you work tomorrow in that triple threat from dusk till dawn for Southwest Wrestling. But you're a wonderful talent, a wonderful guest, and I'm really, really excited for your future. But Ruby Manitoba, thank you very much.
Thank you.